I'm happy to welcome Chigan Roshi to give today's Sunday talk. He has been spending a few days at Daibosatsu Zendo, so we will now go to the DBZ Dharma Hall, and he will lead our discussion afterwards.
Good morning. As you can see, those who are with us on Zoom, there's a difference between the virtual world and the physical world. It actually takes some time to get up from one's seat, to revive one's means of locomotion called the legs once they fall asleep, and to make one's way up here. This is how it is. So today here at Daibosatsu Zendo, it's a wonderful day, and we have come together here, some of us, with a group of other people for the first time since March 2020. Not only Shuko-san and I, but also others who arrived here for the first time. It is quite something. And to come to this place, which is a place of Dharma teaching, is a privilege for all of us who are here. We have been sitting here. We have been working outside and inside, and receiving Teisho all around the clock. The birds teaching us about the Dharma. The coyotes at night chanting dedications. And the barred owls sending out wake-up calls. Don't be asleep. Be here. Be alert. And countless little creatures with wings and some kind of blood-sucking instrument, reminding us what bodily existence looks like. All of this is wonderful teaching without the need of words, without any kind of concepts that we need to know to experience it. Of course, there are birds in the city. There are birds everywhere. Insects, most certainly. These teachings are not just available to us here in this physical location, but these teachings are available in the world, wherever we may be. But we need to be able to hear them with our ears, with our bodies, with our minds, and with our hearts. So here we are together again. And this talk will be like the bubbles from the bottom of Beecher Lake that have just risen naturally. Manas, contents of mind, contents of thought, contents of heart, just bubbling up. One of the items I would like to reflect about this morning is our human nature. especially at this time, when there's so much change, or apparent change again. But we have to learn to come back and rekindle our ability to be in accord with what is in what we call the world. And of course, we all know from our own lives, human nature includes the experience of anxiety and also difficulty that we experience with the activity of change. Even experienced practitioners who have been doing this kind of practice for many decades are human and partake in all the human traits that each of us represents. And one of those traits is inertia. I will come back to that. So change does not come easily. And this is kind of a practice. There are many other practices that are similar to this, that have a different approach, but come to the same core. But since I'm sitting in the city, I can speak for this kind of practice. And even then, I can only speak for the practice that this human being sitting here has gone through. So this kind of practice has allowed me to become more in accord with the Dharma, more in accord with the Tao, if you want to say, the way, suchness, or the ever-changing this. We say change does not come easily, yet the very activity of change is what keeps us alive. Anybody been breathing lately? All of us, all the time. In fact, it's the first thing we started doing when we were born. And most likely, it's the last thing we give up before we disappear. Breath. We're good at it. Good enough to be as old as we are. But doesn't mean we have experienced what it is, the sense behind this activity that makes us breathe. The very activity of change, the very activity of the Dharma. That's what we're investigating here. Buddhism teaches us that active attachment or clinging is a hindrance. And when we speak of clinging, it is the clinging to ideas, beliefs, even ideals. So no matter how refined, how benevolent or lofty these ideas and ideals might be, once they're solidified, reified, they become a thing. And when you have a thing in front of you and you want to move, it has to become an obstacle. Hindrances can be obstacles that we can't pass over. Hindrances can be weight that we bear with us. Sometimes the weight of what we hold on to might be a weight that is created by an emotional nature. And that can weigh quite heavily. Other weights that we might bear and carry with us, like self-assurance, or just preservation of familiar patterns we have engaged in and which we return to over and over, become more and more obvious when we start entering into a practice like this. And in this very formal practice that we follow here, a lot of our forms and the schedule especially are geared towards letting go of such quiet patterns, such quiet assumptions, such quiet beliefs, and to just open up the space in our hearts and minds for fresh experiences. Zazen is the staple food of the Zen practitioner. Not only seated, but in action and in movement. Zazen, so much as the posture seems limited, but the approach of existence, of being a person who fully manifests the activity of Zazen in the 24 hours of the day is what we aspire to. So through this practice of Zazen, we learn to see into the nature of Dharma, what we call Dharma, but which is the activity of change. You can call it the activity of time, the activity of nature, or if you want to call it the activity of the divine. Any of those words will do. But penetrating into this core of this activity of change will teach us how human experience functions. And suddenly everything begins to reveal relationship. Relationship with ourselves, relationship with those attachments, with a self-image, with an identity, with wishes to get away from the patterns, to change one's identity, and all of that. Everything relationship. Suddenly we emerge and see ourselves and discover ourselves as the creators of the world we live in. That sounds powerful, and it is. But it also comes with a lot of responsibility. First of all, we are responsible for ourselves. And we are responsible for the relationships that we have and that we realize in this world. This morning, and every morning in the morning meeting, we read from Bangke Zenji, from a book, and by this time, it is about the poems of Bangke. This morning, we heard a portion of the Honshin no Uta, the song of original mind, which was composed in 1653. And we heard this: only original mind exists in the past and in the future too. Instead of holding on to things in your mind, let them go. When we hear things like that, descriptions like that, letting go sounds often like we have to detach from something. And detachment actually is a word that we hear sometimes, even in this practice. We have to realize the difference between detachment and non-attachment. Because if we are detached, still, this is one kind of relationship. But letting go is quite different than being detached. Still in a relationship. So in our Zazen, we refine our awareness of those relationships. Of course, it is difficult to go to the places in our lives, in our minds, where we get to that object, to that so-called hindrance that manifests as a big door that says, do not enter here. Now, if we just follow the sign and turn around, we're missing the best part of it. So our relationship becomes with how do we open this door and how do we go safely into that where everything we know, even our body might tell us, stay away, danger, danger. So we get really close to our own mind's functioning. And Bankei tells us a little more, revealing how this actually works. This is really fantastic, you know. I have a clock here. And time has stopped. I was looking at it and thinking, oh, you're already down a third of the page. And it's only 7 minutes. But then another third later, I discovered time has stopped. Also shows how the mind works. But here's what Bankei says. When you don't attach to things, the floating world will cease to be. Nothing is left. Nothing at all. That's what living Tathagata means. Having created the demon mind yourself, when it torments you mercilessly, you are to blame and no one else. When you do wrong, your mind is the demon. There is no hell to be found outside. Experience and judgments color and paint the world in which we dwell. That is what Bankei is telling us. He says, abominating hell, longing for heaven, you make yourself suffer in a joyful world. You think that good means hating what is bad. What is bad is the hating mind itself. Good, you say, means doing good. Bad indeed, the mind that says so. We just heard this morning. How fitting. So back to relationship and to attachment. Attachment is relationship that comes to a rest like this clock. This clock is attached to a specific idea of time. And now it started ticking again. So I just helped this clock liberate itself from the idea that if I stop, I will be right. Twice a day. And that's an idea too. So attachment is a relationship that comes to some kind of arrest. But relationship means we have to make contact. And we have to hold at times. Hold to become one in action and in manifestation of this oneness, of the not two-ness. If it's hot and I pick up this fan, I have to hold it. I have to hold it. And this relationship and this action is oneness and one action that is necessary. But if I decide to not let go of this fan ever again, it becomes troublesome. Especially if I pick something up with my other hand. I could not even wipe myself in the bathroom anymore. So these are the hindrances of attachment. Letting go helps us to bring relationship to completion. A good cook is one with the knife. No room for concepts, for self. I, the cook, am cutting. No, none of that. As soon as that comes, the two-ness becomes apparent. The flesh is cut. I saw some bandages around. Again, it happens to all of us because it's part of human nature. We cannot always be one. My ordination teacher, Roshi, used to say, when two people love each other so much and they hug each other really, really, really intensely, no matter how much they love each other, at some point nature will call and one of them will have to go to the bathroom. Which means we cannot stay together all the time. We have to let go and move on and return. Letting go and departing is the completion of relationship. And it's the only way to allow new relationship to happen. Receiving and giving in relationship is exactly how we become that not to. In Zen practice, we address this and we put a specific spin on it. We put a specific topic on it, that two-ness. We call it the great matter of birth and death. And we address it in this practice with our full being, through sitting and through practice. We become truly intimate with what I said before. Our nature tells us to avoid, to not go to, which is discomfort, dying, or death itself. Anything that we fear, we address here. And so, over time, our innate fear of death and fear of dying and fear of suffering slowly transforms into something different. Deep respect and deep intimacy with a friend that we call the activity of Dharma. That constant change. Hakuin says in the Zazen Wasan that we read here at Daibusatsu Zendo in the morning currently, Itsuka shoji o hanaru beki. When will we be able to be free from birth and death? If we think that we can be free from birth and death, you know what will happen to us? We will be reborn 500 times as a fox. But arriving at the freedom within birth and death, not ignoring birth and death, not ignoring duality, but liberating ourselves from an enslavement to a two-dimensional life, a two-dimensional world of good and evil, of plus and minus, of birth and death. That is the taste of liberation that the Buddha spoke about. So I spoke of inertia earlier. Inertia only exists in that world of time and space and matter. But since we are beings in a world where there is time, where there is space, and where there is matter, we have to deal with this inertia. And for that inertia to be overcome, the teachings of the Buddha teach us about a forward motion that we initiate consciously through our aspiration and through a great vow to extend our understanding and our heart beyond that limited two-dimensional, flat-faced world, the Heimenjo. And we call it bodhicitta. Bodhicitta. It helps us to turn this fear and anxiety into compassion and respect. And especially now, as we are getting into a phase in society where from isolation we emerge and go back into the world, a lot of fear, anxiety, and judgment is prevalent. So when we meet other human beings who might not want to get vaccinated, let's not call them stupid. Let's not vilify them. But let's be respectful of where they are now. Let's look at it not from the point of view of somebody in a better place who is able to judge other people's deficiencies. But let's get into that seed of bodhicitta and say, how can I look at this situation from the point of view of creating the conditions for further development, of completion of relationship, not of sizing up. If we do that, the only relationship we have is with our own very short measuring stick. that we created, on which we put the notches ourselves, and to which we probably don't even measure ourselves. So let's take bodhicitta, the very strong determination to overcome this two-dimensionality, and to go forward and turn fear and anxiety into respect and compassion. This is how we overcome inertia. And we have to know that pressing against this inertia, it is a feeling of discomfort at times. But that is a very, very small price to pay to break out of this two-dimensional cell in this prison of good and evil, of birth and death, of self and other. Here comes the final confession. From the point of view of the Dharma, we are all Dharma oafs. But no matter how inept, or how many so-called mistakes we make, the movement with bodhicitta is what gives it completely different way of life. This is what the path of becoming a bodhisattva looks like. And it is my privilege to be on this path with all of you here in person, with all of us here in the world that can be seen via Zoom. All the spirits of our ancestral teachers, of our departed Dharma friends, and Danishi Buddha. Thank you for spending time with the Dharma oafs.